this camp looking forward, and now looking back on an extension of the celebration, it's time to dig in and start.
Yeah, it's already started. So the first indicator that you're looking for is not the results of the test, but how they test, the focus on it. It's been really good. So our veteran players that we returned this year are at or above their fitness level from last year. So there's no, I'll probably start with that word right now, because we're going to hear it, the hangover concept. We don't believe in it. Certainly not a physical issue with us. We're stronger than we were last year at this time with our returning players. That's a credit to them, because they couldn't have made improvements without spending the time to do it. So we know that on day one that we are in physically as good or better shape than we were last year, and now it's about honing it every day and handling the day that we're in. So tomorrow will be same first day that we've had the last 2 years to the minute, and we'll measure that and we'll build from there. So there are going to be, and rightfully so, some backward-looking things that we'll deal with at the start, banner raisings, ring ceremonies, all those good things that you get to enjoy. Well, we'll make very sure that our day is completely focused on what we're doing, not living in the past, and maybe more importantly, that whole hangover idea, not living in the future. So we're going to get beat in November. I mean, I'm going to end up answering this to you people, and I understand that. We're going to get beat in November in a game that be against a Western Conference team that didn't make the playoffs last year and probably won't make the playoffs this year. And we will be assigned, it will be a hangover loss. And it won't be true, because we lost the exact same game the last 2 years. It'll just be a perspective of the why. Because the standard that in some ways that this team gets held to is its last game. You win the Stanley Cup, then you should win every game. That's just not real. So handle our day in the right perspective of where we're at and move forward.
One quick follow-up. Does, even at this point for you, and even after what you guys did in June, does it still have the first day of school start sort of feeling for you, that same?
Yes, the same. The anxiety's not there. There's a nervous energy right now. And in part because it comes back when you see the work that some of these guys did. You as the coach and the coaching staff, you want to be good on day one too. We're all performers at the end. We all have a job to do, and we want to do it at a very, very high level. We won't spend any time thinking now about week 3 of camp or the opening night or what it looks like. We'll just deal with day 1 of camp and make sure that we're right.
Realizing the need to new year and all that, but we haven't talked to you since you guys.
Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. I appreciate it. I think hopefully it was good for both of us. Kind of had enough, right?
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah, it was good, George. It was
So
good.
what was it like? Did you bask in winning? I mean, did you even chase? What's your summer like compared to?
The best way I can describe it was incredibly peaceful summer. In that we left, I think July 3rd, 2 days after free agency. It took us 3 or 4 days to get to where we were going. We had a cup day on the mid to late August, and it was the day after a family wedding, so all the family was there, which was nice. It upset a lot of family members. They didn't come up to the cottage this year because we got to meet on the 18th, so we had this block of time at the lake without a lot of entertaining and reliving it. It was just incredibly peaceful. It was wonderful. It was exactly what I needed. I got kind of walking around the first week in August and turned to my wife and said, all right, I'm ready to go back. I'm ready to get going. So I got all the time that I needed. It was the exact opposite of what you think. It was not a summer of reverie. It was not a summer of connecting on the cup. It was a summer of peace and relaxation. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
You would chase, as you talked about, Jordan, you chased that cup for years. Was there a sense of you'd wake up and say, okay, I've accomplished something that, or
No, none of it. It would truly be the opposite. And I wouldn't have been able to explain that to you before. It's not something you can explain before, but I would say this lifestyle takes a source of energy. You have to have a driver that pushes you, and you know, backward looking, you'd say it's the quest for the cup, and it's real. But being that only one team wins it, there's got to be another driver, and that's constantly push forward, make things better, drive a program, improve a program. But that source sometimes, I don't know, that's negative. Sometimes it's dark. You lose a game, you don't go to sleep till 3, but you get up at 5 to do the video because you want to grind. You got to be better the next day. Now maybe you get just this completely different source of energy that now you have a feeling of what it's like, and you want it more. It's so hard to explain, but I don't think we're going to be short on energy this year.
What was it like though? You went to the cottage, like going to the Tim Hortons, seeing people that you've seen every summer. Did you ever get a whole lot of that?
Well, I think because the cottage is in Canada, and being that we played a Canadian team, there was a fair amount of awareness. But in truth, we're in a pretty remote area, and I'm not lying to you when I say my cell phone doesn't work very well up there. I didn't leave the land very often. But it was nice. It's funny though. It's no different than down here. As a matter of fact, I think I went 2 years that I moved around pretty quietly here, and now when you're out walking and you're out at restaurants, I mean, there's a lot of people that really enjoyed it with you, and you make contact with them. But really, it was quiet. It was probably the most quiet summer I've ever had because we just didn't feel the need to leave.
And so going back to hockey, you guys have the target on your back now. I don't know if you really had to deal with that last year as the Eastern Conference champions, but now that you're the Stanley Cup champions, how do you kind of deal with that? I mean, you're the team that, every team around the league is saying, and the Stanley Cup champs are here January 17th, that kind of thing.
So I felt last year, George, that's an additional idea to how teams prep for us, right? There's additional motivation perhaps. But I think based on our style of play, that's fairly aggressive, teams knew that coming to the rink, and we would get that kind of game from teams almost every night last year. Clearly, and I think Las Vegas went through it last year too, and I know that because when we played them, now we would have had extra motivation, but we're gonna get that, right? So we have our teams in the Eastern Conference, certainly. I mean, Boston probably is our opening night game. That's 2 playoff series, but anybody that you've played in the playoffs the last 2 years has an edge for you and an understanding of what the game's gonna be like. I think what it is great for the Florida fans. I love the style of hockey that we play. I think we lost every regular season game to Boston last year, and each time we walked off the bench, I loved that game. I was good at the game because it was entertaining and it had energy and emotion. You watch our team play, you don't say, hey, these guys are going through the motions. You just don't ever see that. So I've got confidence in our style of game, but I would agree with you. Nobody's coming to the rink thinking it'll be an easy night when they play us, so we get everybody's best, which is the perfect stone to hone the edge.
Hey, Paul, 2 for you if you don't mind. Just to follow on what you were just saying, do you think that teams will start trying to maybe do what you guys have been doing stylistically and start to bring that style of game just because of the success that you guys have had?
Yeah, I think that's inevitable. I do think that you saw, let's just go off last year's template. You saw a number of teams in the NHL change their defensive zone coverage based on the Vegas success. And some teams had really good effect with it, and some teams it didn't help them. So there are things that, yes, they will adapt, but we played this game because of the personnel that we have. It's style to the player. And we recruit for those kind of players and scout for those kind of players. So every team has that challenge of matching the style of play with the style of player that they have. We are not completely unique in that style. There are other teams that play that, but I think you will find maybe systematically you'll see teams more open to certain things that we do.
And in terms of your prep for camp this year, when you started to think about the things you wanted to do and if you wanted to change anything, does the message change? Does anything change based on the fact that you guys have now reached that pinnacle and you've reached your goal?
The core of what we believe in, and we'll take it right down to the basics of certain parts of our game, we have a handful of things that we demand. And I'm not just saying coaches to players. I mean, as a group, there are certain things that we hold very important in every one of our games. That's not going to change. The messaging on those won't change. I would say we are looking to add an idea to our game, but we had started to talk about it in the playoffs last year, a place that we thought we could improve. So that will be part of our camp, but it won't be in the first 7 days of camp. It's something that we'll add in the middle of the camp and try to build on. The messaging then know who we are, what we do, how we do it, that idea doesn't change. But our adversity will change. It's going to look different this year. It looks every year. When you go back 2 years ago, we had a completely different sense. We had to completely rewire our game. And then we had a very difficult schedule in January. If we don't survive that January a year and a half ago, we don't get to where we are this year. When I look at, we have more outside non-hockey things involved that comes with winning. And also our schedule is egregiously challenging this year in part. And we signed up for it. We're going to Finland. We're trying to come back. I think we've got 14 sets of back-to-backs, so it's a heavy, heavy schedule. So getting that message right is important because it won't be the exact same message every year. You have to deal with different kinds of adversity, and you can't keep saying the same things. When things around you change, you don't change your core or your fundamentals or your belief, but certainly you have to be aware of the day that you're living, and things have changed and we've got to deal with it.
Well, you mentioned previously, the question was the chase for the cup, and your coaching, and what you've gone through, and you said you want it more. Only 8 teams have won it back to back. How do you temper maybe expectations of this team? That people expect this team to come out fast and to make send a message.
So we're not going to temper them. We're just going to try to learn to deal with them and live with them. You're right. So we'd be 2 examples possibly. It must have been what Las Vegas went through last year, because I believe they started the season 11-0. So that must have been something very, very challenging. And then they got lots of injuries. That's all part of it. So I don't know that you can temper the expectations. So your goal is clearly to win the Stanley Cup. There's nothing else. But the process says that's your daily process. 2 years ago, I want to make sure I tell the truth here. I enjoyed the process as much 2 years ago when we didn't win as I enjoyed last year. The process was incredible. Great bunch of guys. They worked their butts off. They scratched, they clawed, they had huge momentum shifts. They overachieved in some areas with the beating Boston. That was a right season by an NHL team. They cared about each other. They played hard for their fans. They were exciting to watch, and they left it all up the ice. That criteria will be exactly last year, and it will be exactly this year. That's our goal. The end result, one of the things that's interesting, go back and you watch the video, the number of times it was so close. Just a small look, Sam Reinhart's goal. Dmitry Kulikov, it's buried into the net, wide open puck sitting off the post, drives it to the corner, we go down and score it. That's life, that's hockey, that's real. That it was right there to go the other way. The number of times, Anton Lundell's goal, it's tied, 6 minutes left to go in the third period. He puts that in as just on a shot with a net drive. There's 1,000 of those events in a 2-month period where it could have gone either way for you. So you just want to make sure that mentally you're in a position to allow good things to happen. When something negative happens to us this year, it's not going to be the end of the world, but it'll be perceived as it is. There's the hangover, they can't do it. It's an incredible challenge to repeat, but all we can do to create that opportunity is not start trying to win the Stanley Cup tomorrow. We got day 1. It's got to be a certain level of heart, and we got to get to that level.